Dimp Digital presents Idle Game Chat.
Hello, Apps here from Dimp Digital and welcome to Idle Game Chat. This is the weekly video games podcast where we give our impressions of the video games that you can play today, react to the latest gaming news, and also sometimes give updates to our Fantasy Gaming League Championship, which is what we're here to do today. We're here every Monday on your favourite podcast app and YouTube, absolutely free. I'm joined by the current Dimp Digital Fantasy Gaming League Grand Prix winner, Mark Smith Biff, and the reigning Dimp Digital Fantasy Gaming League champion, Le Champion Paper. Gents, how we doing?
Good.
Oh, nearly bollocksed it. Paper, you went first. You jumped in there.
Well, I wasn't sure who was going to go first, and I thought, fuck it, I'm the champion. I'm going first, and then so I went straight in there, and then Biff tried to, like everything, he's trying to take everything away from me and tried to step in on top of me. I'm not happy. That's what
his actual goal is this time round, is to take away your championship belt. Biff, how you doing? Been a few. Yeah, it's probably the two quickest succession podcasts you've ever done. The Last of Us and then this, and we probably won't see you for another year.
Yeah, that's the way I like it. 2 in a week and then just leave it for a year. Everyone knows where they stand.
Per hour or per minute that Biff spends on these podcasts, he gets paid the most because he does the least. So
sort of bunch them after.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we are here to do an update to the Fantasy Gaming League. Long-time listeners will understand why it's you two, because you two are the two captains. Those that are a little bit lost, what you should have been doing, because you've obviously subscribed to this feed, but you should have listened to the draft edition episode of the Fantasy Gaming Championship. So that I've put that up on this feed. It's gone up as a bonus episode early. If you've got to this stage and still not listened to it, I would advise going back and listening to that. All the rules are explained on there, and it will give you a little bit of a basis for what these pair of idiots are going to talk about today. And we're going to do a little bit of not quite a half-yearly update. It's a little bit over that, but we're closing in on the back end of the year, so it's time to start looking at who's actually going to take this championship, and we will maybe get some predictions and find out what the guys have been doing. But before we start, patreon.com/idle game chat is the place where you can go to support us if you want to tip us a few bucks a month and get some perks for your troubles as well. So it's patreon.com/idle game chat. Now, as I said, we're over the halfway point. Season's running out. Games are running out too. The current scores on the doors are, with 7 games released, Paper's Parappa the Rappers are sitting on a 580 score with an average of 84. Biff's Team Balboa are sitting on a 508, but have only had 6 games released, so just 1 game behind, and the average score is a stunning 87. So the averages are in Biff's favour. He has used 1 extra sub, though, so they're 5 points a pop. So if you want to find out and actually look at the details of these particular standings, head over to dimpdigital.com and you can find everything up to date on there. But Paper, you were, at the start of this year, seemingly seemed to front load your picks, get the early scores in. COVID-19 then come along, sort of March. Seemed like it was going to disrupt things, causing delays. Many were saying at that point it's a masterstroke that you have just gone in and banked the scores, because who knows what's going to happen. But as the year has trundled on, as games have started to come out maybe a few months or a few weeks later than first anticipated, Biff has slowly been catching you up, and now he's pretty much right up your arse. And perhaps with an advantage, you've got a 72 point lead over him. He's got a game in hand. Are you scared at this point that the title may be gone, and the title of Le Champion, more importantly, will be going over to Biff?
There is only one Le Champion. Let's get this right, and that will always be the original, the OG, the Paper.
The title goes with it, so you'll lose that.
No chance of going anywhere.
I can't get the side plates off, so that he has to have it. It says the champion on the belt.
Fine. they can be ripped off before it goes back. But no, to be fair, like, you know, I front loaded it. I'm still yet to be overtaken by Biff this season. So it's now we're in the 7th month, and I'm still in the lead. And that's one thing. The other person's always playing catch up, and that's what I was sort of going for. In terms of what I've picked, I can't go too wrong. I think I've done okay. It'd be unfair of me to say to Biff if I didn't feel a little bit uncomfortable if his nose was a little bit close to my arsehole, but it's definitely getting closer.
I think he enjoys that, believe it or not, in all walks of life. So
yeah, exactly. Like this time last year, Hall had really titsed it up early doors, and I really had everything, you know, just in my favor, whereas this year it's as you mentioned, it's extremely close. It's in the grand scheme of things, there's about a 9-point difference if on the average sort of front. So that could go anywhere over the remaining games, and we'll get into that, I guess, a bit later. But yeah, it's a little bit uncomfortable, but as a true champion, I relish in uncomfortableness, and come the end of the year, once I've had that title still in my hands, and that title stays into my hands into 2021, people will not question me again.
Well, that's one way to put it. I mean, the key headline of this opening tangent of the championship is that you finally lost your over 80 streak. That streak of dominance that you had last year, with no games scored under an 80 on Open Critic, has gone. And even if you don't want to blame Adcock for giving you Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, you yourself put in Resident Evil 3 as your first pick, and it was only a 79.
Yeah, the Dragon Ball Z is the right stinker, and Adcock can hang his head in shame for that one. But
he gave you Doom Eternal 89. Yeah,
well, if you average it out, it comes to about 80 for both games. So, but yeah, the 79 was one that I think it would have been in someone's team eventually, and I feel like after Resi 2 last year and the way that scored, it's a little bit unlucky. Maybe it's I feel like it was struggling a bit from the hangover of Resi from the previous year, and they built both next to it, and it probably therefore didn't move on enough for critics to go, look, they're taking it to the next level. It's pretty much not a copy and paste, but very similar. So it didn't really, it's that whole thing with franchises, like Assassin's Creed, it just keeps going on, and it sort of dwindles in the ratings until they do something different, and then it goes back up again. So yeah, unfortunately. And then you look at next year where there's another Resi been announced, and you think that one, you would have normally put that into one of your top games, but you look at it and think, is it going to suffer like this one has? So it's definitely it's not. To be fair, even if that had scored an 80, or even let's be realistic, an 85, on the averages, I'd still be probably second best, which is frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Biff, you were calling, like many of the football fans and Premier League fans over the course of the COVID sort of lockdown and stoppages, you were calling for this season to be null and voided. You were saying that it shouldn't carry on, it's disgraceful, there won't be enough games coming out, all this sort of stuff. I mean, do you still want the season called off, given the position you're in now, with 4 games left to come out and right up Paper's arse?
So basically, I was just worried that none of my games were going to come out, because some of them were towards the end of the year, and I would have to sub out 6 or 7 games through no fault of my own. And then you was like, look, chill out, put your feet up, it'll be all right. And it's turned out all right. So I have my paddy, and it's all levelled out. But I was just concerned that is what would happen. I'd get like a 30-point penalty because of some geezer hitting the bat in Wuhan. It was bothering me.
Yeah,
just for listeners though, let's not underestimate this paddy. It was a pure breakdown in the group chat. Like, there was tears going, literally things being thrown out of prams. It was probably the Dimp baby moment of 2020. He got the new baby crown from it. Let's not just say he asked if it's been null and void. He was screaming and crying about it to be null and void at the time.
Yeah, I mean the unfortunate thing for you, Biff, is this week now you've been crowned King Baby. and it's taken the place of your samurai crown, which you threw away earlier today. So you've lost that and gained a poorer crown in my eyes.
I think most people think that as well.
Yeah, no chance but to agree with that. You have got one of when you picked The Last of Us Part 2, got a 94. Got to be pleased with that. Logan gifted you a 95 in Persona Royale, which I thought was one of the best picks out there. No one else even had it on their list. Chapper's sold you a hospital pass with an admin error with Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire. But I'll tell you what, the substitution of putting Half-Life Alyx in for that was brave, but has paid dividends with it scoring over a 90. How confident were you with Half-Life Alyx coming in, bearing in mind it's a VR game and, you know, they can be a little bit hit and miss, and Valve haven't really done anything game-wise for donkey's years?
I thought, I did tell you we did speak about this, that Half-Life is such like a...
Yeah, I know you told me, but tell the fucking audience. They ain't heard our conversations.
Well, basically, it's such a loved franchise. I thought they wouldn't lend their name to anything. I think that would hit a 92. I thought it'd get 80 something, low 80s. So it come higher than what I thought. But I thought they wouldn't lend their name and design a game on the Half-Life series just at a whim and throw it away to anything. Yeah. So I was pretty confident it would do well, but I wasn't confident it would do 90s.
No. Hands up myself, I thought that was a stupid substitution, but you know, sometimes even the kings get it wrong. You've got to be able to be big enough to put your hands up. You've mentioned that Logan's given you a 95 of Persona 5 Royale. Or Royal, I keep saying Royale with cheese. But he also gave you your lowest scoring game to date in Minecraft Dungeons, which was a 72. Inconsistent from the long-armed Logan.
Yeah, this is the problem with him. Everyone always says it, you know, a streak of genius followed by absolute shite. So you have to take the gamble with him. But like you say, that Persona was very good. So if you average it out, he's done all right.
Yeah, it's not a terrible piece of business. It's the highest scoring game, Persona 5 Royal. Bit of a cheat. It's a re-release, but it counts. It all counts in the open critic world. Adkins landed you Cyberpunk 2077, which we'll talk about later. But he also got you Ghosts of Tsushima, which you've been playing through and I believe enjoying. I don't know if it's quite what you was expecting in terms of an 85. Whether you're expecting higher or lower than that.
Yeah, I was expecting a bit higher, to be honest.
90s you wanted.
Yeah, I don't know why. I was thinking it was going to be like this year's God of War.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know, I thought it would be really good. And yeah, I was a bit gutted. But, you know, you can't, if you're grumbling at 85s, you're sort of doing all right, aren't you?
That's true, yeah. If you are grumbling at 85s, there's definitely a high standard being set. And then we mentioned Chappers to sub out Pillars of Eternity for Half-Life Alyx, which seemed like a bit of a team decision to sub that in. But he did give you Neo 2, which was giving you a half decent one. So really, I think if when you're looking at your team members, you chose to pick the first game, so you wanted your first pick in there, The Last of Us Part 2. Well done. You was on the back foot with the team picks, but I would say they've actually done, other than the Minecraft Dungeons, which you had ample time to sub out and didn't see. They've done a pretty good job for you so far, and now it's pretty much in the hands of Adkins Cyberpunk than your own picks at the bottom.
I think what you should take from this is that you shouldn't underestimate how disliked Piper is, because they've clubbed together because they want him toppled. So that's basically what they've done. They've not come together for me and the love for me. They've come together for
leadership there
Piper.
Doing that.
Absolutely, yeah. It's
some dictators don't get toppled. That's all I'm going to say. Kim Jong-un's still in power.
Is he still alive? I thought he had a heart attack and died.
Putin's still there. He's managed to wave his way for several extra years as well. So, you know, you can come together all you want. You know, things will be squashed eventually.
They will do indeed. Paper, looking at your particular side of the fence, Adcock, he's almost like a Logan, really. He's given you a Doom Eternal, which was an 89, very good score. Unlucky to miss out on the 90. And then he drops Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, which I don't know how you feel about that, but, you know, one up, one down, so sort of leaves him in the middle. Hall gives you Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Ori, Will of the Wisp. They're two good games there from him, aren't they?
Oh, like Hall, you can't say a bad word about those two games. He's like he's averaged an 89 over 2 games for the team, and that's all you want. And that's more than what you want, should I say? But it's he's done really well. Consistency there. Adcock. That Dragon Ball one is very debatable. And that was, to be fair, that's a little bit unlike him as well. He's usually a little bit better, and it feels like he's taken the plunge of it. It's fine. It was these things happen. But yeah, it is what it is. But Hall's dependable, and Hall's probably going to be back here next year, looking at those individual leagues. So things can change, but he's doing very well for himself.
Yeah, and then you've got the rookie, which is Parky. You took a gamble on. Lands you Animal Crossing New Horizons and the upcoming Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is due to release. They've said day and date with the Xbox Series X, so November. We may already have a date by the time this publishes, but that's what they've said on that. How are you feeling that Parky's done? Because he was a black hole. You mentioned the data several times in the opening sort of episode, and there was no data on Parky, and you still chose him ahead of Chappers.
Sometimes you need to understand sometimes you get some qualitative data and sometimes you get some quantitative data, and I used the former, and I made sure that I understood Parky's mentality and where he's going to go, and then he picked Animal Crossing. I thought, for fuck's sake. But actually the data proved correct, because he came in with a banging 90, which is the joint high score on my team, and Yakuza Like a Dragon, as long as that drops once again, I guess I'm in a similar position to what Biff was like with Ghost of Tsushima. I'm expecting that to score highly, but I don't know. It could score low 80s as well. You just don't really know with some of these things. Yeah. But I wouldn't expect it to be less than an 80 for that one. If it is, I think he's done incredibly. He's been very unlucky with that one.
Yeah, I mean, they typically score well, the Yakuza games. Like a Dragon is a bit of a reboot. They're changing from full-time sort of real-time combat to turn-based. Now, I have seen it in how it looks in some of the gameplay demos. It doesn't look as bad as it sounds. It actually looks quite interesting. So, I think that was what they'd done, 6 or 7 games in sort of real-time fighting. So I guess it was time for a change. They just didn't want to do fully fledged combat. So it's certainly going to be different from the old ones, and hopefully it'll still retain the Yakuza charm. Biff, just looking at your transfers, we've mentioned Half-Life Alyx, you've mentioned the rationale behind that. I mean, you were stitched up by Chappers, really. He said all along the Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire was an admin error on his part. So I guess he was last pick. Is that sort of earning his last pick there by just basically wasting 5 points of yours from the get-go?
Yeah, he's not shown himself in a good light, but he redeemed himself, like you say. What was it? Noah 2, was it?
Yeah, Neo 2, yeah.
Neo 2, yeah. So he dragged himself out the gutters, brushed himself off. But yeah, we've got like a little WhatsApp group. He's been giving me advice as well on other things and what he thinks.
Pep talks.
How to wipe your ass. Yeah. Real life.
It's just a team game.
It's this thing. It is semi-team, and it's a good blend of leadership and team for sure. The other kind of subs that you got rid of, you had Super Meat Boy Forever. How does that game keep popping up in these fucking lists? Adcock had it. I think he had it last year as well, and then you've had it this year as well. It's been there 3 times in 2 years. What's going on with that game? Why does it keep getting picked?
Because Super Meat Boy had done really well.
That's about 8 years ago.
That's the problem. You'd think it keeps coming out, but it doesn't. They just won't release it.
I checked earlier. There's still ain't a release date on that. So I don't know what the fuck's going on there. At least
you'll see that next year then.
Yeah, at least you got rid of it. I mean, you shifted it for the upcoming Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remaster jobby. How are you feeling about that? Because that's a great nostalgic series, but will it play ball in 2020 and get the scores that you desire?
Well, I'm sort of hoping that it does. It sort of reenacts what happened with Resident Evil. But Resident Evil 2 and 3 were designed together, meant to be released together, and they separated them, and I think that's what stunned Resi 3 out of a good score.
You're right.
So I'm hoping
the double package.
Yeah, we'll boost it up a few points.
Yeah.
And like you say, the nostalgia hit, and they've upgraded the graphics, and there's new sort of, I think it's an online mode as well, if I've read correctly.
They're adding all sorts to it to make it sort of modern, I guess, so that you can play online. And
so I'm hoping it has enough modern and enough nostalgia to mix it together, and the fact it's 2 games as well.
Yeah, it's the bottom game on your list as well. So at that stage, people are sometimes struggling for bits, but that's got a release date of September this year. And then the other substitution you made, you had Marvel's Avengers on there. I can't say I blamed you for getting rid of that because it was radio silence for like the first half of the year. They have in the last month or so, this is after you subbed it, given a release date, 4th of September. They've shown a few demos. Have you even looked at Marvel Avengers since you got rid of it, or is it once it's out the team, it's not even a consideration? There's no point even looking at it.
No, I did look at it, and after I watched the gameplay, I was like, I think I've done a good choice there, because I thought it looked pretty shit, to be honest. I think it might sell well for children, but I don't think it will score well.
Yeah.
So I think I made the right choice in getting rid of it.
Well, you replaced it with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I sent you a 6-minute gameplay demo of that, and you weren't impressed with that either. So is that now a worry?
A little bit, yeah. But they haven't scored too bad, the new Assassin's Creed games, but I hope there's enough, because they've done this before where they just released the same thing over and over and just reskinned it, and then it just turned to shit. So I'm hoping that Ubisoft aren't going down the same
fucking path.
Yeah.
I do like the setting of this one, like in England with the Viking invasion. Like that's a lot different to like Egypt and ancient Greece, which are basically like sand dunes, pretty much. So it'd be nice to be roaring around in Norwich or somewhere, slicing people up. But Vikings is definitely a game I'm up for. But you're right, the newer ones haven't scored too bad. I think as long as it's not a technical mess, it should be all right.
Yeah.
And you'll get away with that one. Maybe the next one's when people start bringing down the hammer on the series. But they have been expanding. It's not far off. Like if we've been playing Ghost of Tsushima, and the structure's fairly similar there. And that's getting 85s, and
so you hope it wouldn't go too far off that, but we'll have to wait and see with that.
No. Paper, you've made 2 substitutions. They're both your own personal picks, so you haven't had to manage your team at all. As we mentioned, Biff was unlucky with Chapper's admin error, otherwise potentially he wouldn't have had to do it either. But you had is this the Amazon MMO, was it New World? Is that Amazon's one?
Yeah.
You had that in there.
That's one.
You've played the alpha or some sort of pre-release package of that, and after you played it, you threw it in the bin. You got rid of it. So what happened there?
Sometimes you just got to cut your losses, haven't you? You got to get
shit?
that data. It will be a good game, but it's just it was meant to come out earlier this year, or it was already meant to come out, and the gameplay of it was just nowhere near ready, and it would have just got absolutely destroyed in the critic ratings because it's just a buggy mess, basically. And then they didn't push it back because of obviously COVID, and then they've just recently, the last week or so, announced they pushed it back to 2021. So it was good to get rid of it. I've still got it on pre-order because I think like Dave and anyone who loves an MMO, there's not many good upcoming MMOs out there, and this has the functionality. This has the ability to potentially be one that you could spend a bit of time in and get into enjoy, as long as they do it right. And they just need to get rid of some of the buggy stuff. But it is now, as you said, when I was playing it. But it needed to be now for a lot longer and not being released anytime too soon. So I'm glad they pushed it back because it'll be a better game for it. That one was definitely right for the job.
Will it appear on next year's list without sort of showing your hand? But would you be tempted to go back to the well if it got a spring 2021 release date, maybe a beta in the winter late this year that sort of solidified things? Would you be tempted to go back to it, or was that a bit of a risky proposition that you don't want to be messing around with anymore?
I think it's I think it's risky. I feel like people in the MMO industry are generally quite critical. Yeah, critical. That's what I was going to say. Fussy is a good word.
Fussy prats.
So it does have the ability to score relatively low, and if it's going to score well for an MMO, you're probably only talking about low to mid 80s because you're very unlikely to get higher than that. So the
ceiling's quite low.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're going to go for it, like the way I'd sort of see it is for next year, if anyone wanted to put it in, or if I probably wouldn't bring it into if I was a captain to the team game again, but maybe if on an individual level, it's maybe worth putting down as one of your very end games, just for to make sure you get points on the board, I guess, more than anything. But you could end up scoring a 60.
Yeah. The other game you got rid of, and I'm going to have to expose the business of how this podcast and when it is recorded, but it was Carrion, which is the sort of backwards horror game where you play as the monstrosity. Now, by the time this podcast releases, that game would have released on Xbox Game Pass and on PC and other platforms, so it would have had a score. I can only assume that you subbed out Carrion because it was radio silent, like some of these games, for most of the year, and it was literally sort of early July, after the transfer window had shut, that Carrion got a release date, and it was a bit of a stealth drop, and it was only a few weeks away. So was it because you'd heard nothing up until that point, or was there also a bit of concern over the quality of that game as well, bearing in mind that whatever you say now could come back to bite you because the scores will be out for people to be comparing against?
So I think there's multiple things at play here. One, the big one was the silence, and I didn't like the silence.
For a small game, especially.
Yeah, for a small game, you just in a small, development team, you just think, silence is not good. And there's a couple of other games on my list that there's a little bit of silence I'm not enjoying. But Carry On is the silence. Generally the feedback from people playing it has been relatively positive. However, I just also wasn't 100% sold on how well it would be taken by the team. And the thing that sort of sold me the thing that put me in this position was the drop of Paper Mario,
yes.
The Origami King, came out to be subbed in at the time we had the substitution open. And I had a bunch of games, Axiom Verge 2, Cuphead, Carrion, that I could have subbed out for it. And out of the three of them, I looked and thought Karen may score the least, mainly because there's nothing to compare it to. Whereas Axiom Verge 1 scored really well, Cuphead scored really well, and so you think those two are going to be relatively good games. And so I was sort of forced into making the decision on Karen. I would have liked to have kept it in and having to make the decision more towards the end of the year. So I would have definitely left that to the next transfer window if Paper Mario hadn't dropped. But because Paper Mario dropped, then that made decision. However, that you're right, like Paper Mario scored an 81.
I was going to ask you what you thought of that.
Which is an okay score, but then you take into account that you lose 5 points from the sub, so you're saying that's a 76 game really, and so Carrion, I would expect that to come out above 76, and so therefore you'd probably say, well, that probably wasn't the best move, in hindsight. I'm just hoping Carrion comes out and it scores, a 65 or something like that, and then I can keep my head held high.
Yeah, I mean, we'll all find out. By the time this goes up, we'll know whether that was the correct decision or not, and whether Paper Mario has been a worthwhile transfer. I want to say with Paper Mario coming in, it's one of the, along with like Half-Life Alyx, one of the transferred games in. I was a little bit disappointed with the Paper Mario score. I was expecting high 80s for that, and then I was actually willing to go in and buy it if it was going to get because I've never played a Paper Mario game, but to see it come out as an 81, it felt a bit like Pokemon from last year, where it didn't quite get the higher scores that the Nintendo games have historically got on the Switch.
Yeah, it's strange because I watched a couple of reviews recently before the scores came out, and like the review, like people like doing a bit of gameplay and stuff like that, and the reviews at that point without scoring were generally really positive. They were talking about the new boss mechanics, which looked really interesting, and so I think I was a little bit surprised. I was thinking in my head about a mid-80s. I know Hall was expecting like 90s and stuff like that for it. He's really banging home, but I must admit, I had seen the other Paper Mario scores, and they hadn't scored that well since sort of like the original Paper Mario came out, and so there was always that where it could score low. I would still say an 81 if it was one of those games that you'd had in from the start of the season. Is a good game to have in. It's game number 9 as well, so it's a good score for game number 9.
True.
But I think it was one of those ones. that I would have hoped to have, an 86, an 87 type thing for it, and then that would have been better. But it is what it is, and I'm just hoping our carrying just doesn't, come to that isn't the game that costs me at the end of the season.
Yeah, it could well be. Let's have a look at what's left. Biff, you've got 4 games left. So you've got Cyberpunk 2077, release date 19th of November. Any worries or concerns about that not making it? Because it's been delayed. We should have already been playing this game twice over now, and it's been delayed several times. Are you at all concerned that might not make it? Because September will be the last transfer window, and by that point, once September ends, you're locked in with your current picks. You will not be transferring out something. So if it doesn't make it, it's a big fat 0.
Yeah, it is a concern because it has been pushed back, and they could easily do it again if it, But I would think that they'd try and hit that Christmas sort of deadline. They want to get it out before Christmas.
New consoles, I don't know. Well.
Yeah, with the new consoles. So you'd think that they would maybe put it back to try and save up for that. So I reckon it will come out, but it could be a little bit of a concern.
Yeah.
You worry with it coming out as well. You don't know. You're right about the Christmas stuff. I think that's interesting. But will they potentially rush it a little bit, and there'll be a few bugs in it that they're trying to paper over now and get rid of? Like that is definitely concerning. So I look at that game and I feel like you're probably going to score well there. So that is frustrating.
Yeah, well, if it's anything like The Witcher 3, I'm going to enjoy it, and I hope it does. Hope we get it this year, and I hope it's in good quality. That's the main thing. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, we've spoken about brief. That's got a 17th of November release date. Are you at all concerned about that release date? I think in my head, genuinely, I have it that Assassin's Creed games don't get delayed typically. Once the date's there, it will come out by hook or by crook, whether that's for better or for worse.
Yeah, that will come out whenever. Whether it's ready to play, it doesn't. That's another thing.
That's a secondary item on Ubisoft's agenda. Is it ready? Don't care. The date's been set. Interesting that it's only 2 days apart from Cyberpunk. That is
could be make or break, couldn't it? November.
Yeah, that really is going to be they're coming thick and fast. Dying Light 2, nothing. I don't know what's happening.
No release date.
It's a silent one. Is this one that could be potential transfer fodder when the window opens up, just to secure a game that is going to be popping out?
Most likely, yeah. If September rolls round and you've not heard nothing, you'd get itchy feet, wouldn't you? So, I don't know. It depends how confident I am, how bad Piper's doing or how well he's doing and how close it is.
True.
If he gets like a 60 in there, I might go, fuck it. Keep it in there. But we'll have to wait and see.
And then we spoke about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, 4th of September. Plenty of time for that one. If it does slip, you'll be well within your transfer window to be changing that. I guess you're not really too concerned about the release date of that one.
Nah.
There you go.
That'll be good.
It's a strong 4 if they all come out potentially. Dying Light's the real flashing alarm bell potential one. We've just gone silent on it again. Paper, you've only got 3, so your opportunity is a little bit more limited to get these high scoring games. Yakuza Like a Dragon, no formal release date I could find. Axiom Verge 2, no formal release date I could find. Cuphead, The Delicious Last Course, no formal release date I could find. You've potentially got 3 games sitting there, and none of them could come out at this rate.
This is the risk you take.
And you front loaded that team early on. By March, you'd got half your games out. You was laughing.
No, these 3 games, I think if they come out, could be the difference between winning this and not winning this. Well, that's obviously true, isn't it? But I feel like those 3 games are 3 games that if they drop this year could be like high 80s, 90s games, and they're the difference between I think pulling me back into the lead. Whereas you look at some of the ones on Biff's side, and like things like Dying Light 2 is probably maximum a low 80, I would say. Tony Hawk's, again, I really don't think that's going to score above an 80 on that. I think that's nostalgia, and people are going to get suckered into it and realize, hey, it's like playing GoldenEye. When you go back and play GoldenEye, it's nowhere near as good as when you played it when you was a kid, because everything's updated. And I just feel like it's going to be the same with Tony Hawk's 1 and 2. Like, people expect a lot more now now than just rehashed of the old, skate parks and stuff like that. And Valhalla, once again, it could score. The Ubisoft games are scoring well at the moment, but once again, Ubisoft will just put it out there just to get it with the new consoles, even if it's not fully patched, and that will lose it a bunch of scores. So at least with the games that I've got, if those 3 come out, they will come out well. They won't come out shit. And so I think that's what I'm relying on. However, come September, if there's no sell by date for them or release date, then you probably will see us, or you'll see me starting to tweet the developers saying, "Oi, come on, guys,
get these games out
now. There's a belt on the line here, and I don't want to give it up." But so yes, it's I look at it at the moment, and they are the 3 games that I think, they come out, I will score well, and it will keep it extremely close. They don't come out, like anything, it's over. If one game's dropped by either me or Biff, that's the season over. So
can't afford
you need
a zero.
No, exactly. You need a score on the door. So the worst comes to worst, it gets subbed for something that comes out at an 80 or something, and you just hope Biff, one of his games don't come out, or something gets pushed back like Cyberpunk. Though, as I said, I don't think that'll happen. But that's the way I'm looking at the moment. I think these 3 come out, that'll score really well, and it'll be an extremely close finish. That's what I'm sort of thinking at the moment.
Yeah, it'd be great if all of the games we've just spoken about, they're all made 2020 and there were no more subs and it was just down to the wire, because I tend to agree with you, Paper, that it would be very close. I don't know if I'd better call it either way. But if that was the case, your 4 came out, Biff's Paper's 3 came out, would you still be confident of taking home that championship, or do you think there's a couple in there that could trip you up and let Paper steal it from under your nose?
No, I'll be fairly confident. I think that they'll all score mid, some maybe a couple of those high 80s. So that means all Pipers have to get into the 90s.
Yeah.
Because he's playing catch up. So, what's the point difference between us at the moment?
Did you work out about 9, didn't you, Paper?
Yeah, so yes, Biff's behind by 72 points. So if you score an 80 game there, that which is for you low, Biff, that means I'm 8 behind.
Yeah, right, okay, so your 3 games are all neat. I don't know, it's tight. It's
tighter than, it's good, because this time last year Hall had already fucking thrown the towel in, not intentionally, like one of his games was just total shit and that was it killed it off, whereas no one's had any shitters. You've managed to match each other in getting into like the low 70s, 1 each, and everything else has been either a really high 70 or 80s and 90s. So it's close, and I hope it does go down to the wire and it doesn't come down to some last minute delay that throws it out. But that's the game we play. Before we wrap up, I want to take a quick look at the Grand Prix, which is our individual league. Hall is currently top of that, but he's had 7 games out. Like, that's far and away more than anyone else, and he's sitting on a score of 560 with an 81 average, which is nothing to sniff out. He's got No More Heroes 3, Tell Me Why, and Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles still to come, so it could be some more subs there. Second place is Chappers. He's only had 5 games out. He's got an average of 86. So that's a pretty high average if you look at that. Cyberpunk's on his list to come out. Gods and Monsters, Skater XL, Outriders, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skaters 1 and 2. So he's gone double on the skateboarding games there, and he's also made 4 subs. So he's sacrificed 20 points in his little pit. Logan's had a bit of a stinker. He's had 5 games out. His average is joint lowest at the moment with 78. Resident Evil 3, Persona 5, Minecraft Dungeons, and then what really killed him off was Bleeding Edge with a 65. He can't be affording that. Nice little transfer he made in was Valorant, and that got an 81, but he's got Football Manager 2021, 12 minutes, Halo Infinite, which no one has got in the main championship, Rainbow Six, Quarantine, and Godfall. Adkins has the highest average, 90, but he ain't had many games out. He's only had 4 games out, and he's still got 2 blanks in his roster that he needs to fill out. So he's still got 10 points to flush away. But listen to this for a little set of games. The Last of Us Part 2, 94. Ghost of Tsushima, 85. Dreams, 90. And then Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, 89. That is a stunning set of 4 games. Just a shame he's handicapped himself by not getting 10 games out. I mean, he can still pull it back. Got Mafia Definitive Edition to come. Spider-Man Miles Morales, Marvel's Avengers, Watch Dogs Legion, and then, like I said, 2 blanks that he's going to have to come up with something in September. The rookie Parky, he's got 7 games remaining, so he was a bit of an early flyer as well. Average of 85. Still got Yakuza Like a Dragon to come out, Spelunky 2, Cuphead Delicious Last Course, Dying Light 2, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, the new Call of Duty game, and Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. He's made 2 subs already. And Adcock, well, Pac-Man I think's thrown in the towel in all honesty. He's had 2 games out and he's got an average of 78. That's fucking diabolical from Adcock. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot was the game that came out as his first pick, and then Tokyo Mirage Sessions FE Encore got an 83, which was actually pretty good in the end. But he's got some tit on here. Listen to this. Breath of the Wild 2, not coming out, were you in the fault? Bayonetta 3, disappeared. Metroid 4, don't even know if it exists anymore. Overwatch 2, not coming out. Super Meat Boy Forever, that's 5 that are just not going to come out. I think he's done. He may end up with a wooden spoon. He'll fucking deserve it, that diabolical mess. That was, like you, Paper, basically. That was a full list of risky biscuits, and none of them's paid off there. And it's
you can have risky biscuits if you're prepared to make subs, but he just feels like he's not.
No, he has just sat there and stared at it. Like it feels like it's just too. Yeah, it's just too big a job for him to even upheave and redo. But Paper, any predictions on who's going to win that? I mean, Hall's leading it, but his average compared to some of the people behind him isn't as high as what it started off being. He's certainly, trailblazed off, but he's only got 3 games left. Other people do have opportunities if they can get the games out.
Yeah, to be fair, looking at it, Adcock's probably ruled out.
Yeah.
I would say Adkins is probably not going to get there either, and I'd probably look at Logan and say it's probably not going to happen for him either because of some of these scores. Yeah. So that sort of leaves 3 people, which is Hall, Chappers, and Parky. Parky's an interesting one. He's only had 3 games out, but the rest of his stuff on his list, if that comes out, they're going to score relatively well. So he's, as long as he doesn't get the delays, he's going to do okay. I think, though, I would imagine something's going to go wrong there. So then you leave sort of Hall, which I think it's sort of in his hands to sort of lose at the moment. I mean, Chappers, it's the dark horse. I feel like the 2 skates games may cost Chappers, if I'm being honest, because if you're going to get 1 good scoring, I don't know a year ever where we've had 2 decent scoring skater games ever.
We've had a skateboarding game for about half a decade. He's put 2 in there.
Exactly. So that is real. That's a real worry, I'd imagine, from his part. However, I'd probably if I was going to put money on anyone, I'd say it's Halls at the moment to lose. But I'd like to be proved wrong and see someone else come back here and give it a go at the team game. But it looks like Hall for me.
Yeah, Hall. Okay. What about you, Biff? You in the Hall camp as well? Do you think there's potential for someone else to upset the apple cart?
I really want Parky to win. I don't know. I just hope no one he's not had any sort of past or experience in it. He's
no fanfare, nothing.
Nothing, yeah. Shooting from the hip, scoring well. Piper poo-pooed his fucking Animal Crossing game. You went, watch this, bang, top bins.
That is true, Paper. You said you was livid at Animal Crossing. It's dropped you a nice 90 in your team.
I was just, false hope. That's what I was doing. Just keep the morale low, and then when they get it, they'll have that high boost.
So you said you'd like to see Parky to win, but are you going to put your money there?
No, I reckon Chappers will take it.
Oh,
cool.
I've got a feeling he will. I know you sort of shat on the 2 skating games, but I think Tony Hawk's will do all right. And that Skater XL looks really good. I was tempted to put that in my games because I've seen the way that you control the board, and it's quite intuitive. I think I'll do quite well, to be honest, if they can make a good game out of it.
Do it, Biff. Put it in. Go on. Put it in. Take something out and put it in. Put your money where your mouth is.
I think it'll be out. It'll be out before the transfer window opens. Otherwise, you may have had to egg him into that. Well, that's it, gents. That'll do for our little fantasy gaming league update. I guess the next time we'll be back is probably to wrap all this up. Certainly closer than last year's in both the Grand Prix and in the championship game. I'm looking forward to seeing how this pans out and seeing what happens in September, whether anyone starts blinking and just starts trying to pile in safety games just to get their 10 sorted. But you boys so far have played an excellent couple of games against each other, and it's a shame we can't do it every year with you two, because other people have not stepped up to the plate. They've washed themselves out and made it easy for Paper, and Hall retrospectively before that he had a fucking easy ride. So this is a good one. It's a close one. I hope it goes down to the wire. Squeaky bum time in the Dimp Digital Fantasy Gaming League Championship. I'll bid you to adieu and thank you for your time, and then everyone else who's listening, thanks for your time, and ta-da.
This was a Dimp Digital production.